Now, what happened to me? Well, what happened to me is that because 2 people had gotten killed within a 3-month period, and I was already under a 2A investigation for murder my first 3 months of incarceration, because everybody in that pod was under investigation, they locked us down into like this step-down program where we were just completely locked down. I remember getting out, because you get out for a shower once every 3 days. It was my turn to shower. They were short-staffed. I was in that shower at Cimarron. If you ever get a chance, if anybody's gonna be working at Tucson Complex, you just kind of look in this box. I was in that box for like about 4 hours, contemplating the story of my life. And what I had found is that I was spectacularly ignorant of my self-defeating behavior. And I don't know what any of your guys' spiritual path is, right? But the message to me was very clear, is that I was just somebody that didn't love themselves. I think to a certain degree, all of us kind of question like what our purpose is and what our passions are. And how do we implement that purpose and passion into our everyday living so that way we can continue to have good outcomes. See, for me, one of the first things that I valued, that I saw an outcome from was that I would take these Sundays and I would green scrub my toilet so I could do my laundry in my toilet at Cimarron. Because complex laundry, the laundry would come back sometimes not at all, or sometimes very dirty from motor pool from some other yard. So on Sundays, it would take me about 6 to 7 hours to do my laundry in my toilet. So if any of us ask you for a green scrub, man, just know it's probably for something that we're gonna do positive to clean something. And what I found too, when I would clean that toilet, I realized one thing important in my life is a certain level of gratitude, right? What I realized is that regardless of being in prison, regardless of having all this time in front of me, the reality is that I shit in clean water, and that people die every day from a lack of clean drinking water. That whatever I got going on, whatever's happening to me, I've got gold-plated problems. Do you ever feel like life is so down on you at this point, it's hard for you to kind of just make a decision what direction you want to go with your life? Do you know how many people want to be in your shoes? When I realized that I was somebody that didn't love themselves, man, I tell you, my whole life changed. That was when I started waking up in the morning, making sure my bed was absolutely tight. My shoes were always clean, and that whatever message I was taking in was important to me. I started being of service to my incarcerated community because I started seeing how sick everything was around me. See, it was important for me to feel safe. When you have that much time to do in front of you, you don't know if you're gonna get out of here alive. So who I surrounded myself with was very important. Who you're going to surround yourself with as you navigate a correctional setting is going to be important. See, you and I were similar in regards to how it's going to work and how it's going to happen, because you're in an environment of hypervigilance. You're always going to be waiting for the next shoe to drop. 3 different types of officers that I was subjected to, because I observed you guys just as much as you observed us, if you were observing at all. I would see officer burnout. I would see the officers that didn't care. I would see the officers that turned a blind eye. But do you guys want to know when I felt safest? When I felt safest was when you were afforded the type of training that pays to keep somebody like myself safe. Who wants to be safe? And what I mean by that if you used strong observation techniques, then you know that you are going to report who's selling the drugs, who's running this prison subculture. Because when a guy would come around and be like, hey, man, no phones tonight, no drugs tonight, man, no drugs, none of that. So-and-so is working. And I'm gonna be honest, there was only one group of those officers on every yard. And they would run around, they didn't run around just by themselves. They might walk through and observe, but when they would do something, they would always take somebody with them in 2s or 3s. Have you guys already covered that in your training? You have a choice right now. Are you going to put love and understanding the policies and procedures that are gonna make you a good correctional officer? I broke into 32 homes in 3 months. Are you gonna keep me safe? Is that what you're going to do? Thank you. When I first got here and I was walking up and down the aisle, this gentleman right here, what's your name, sir? Or Gonzalez, thank you, sir. He observed that I had my zipper down. There's really nothing funny about it, because that's the kind of detail it's going to take in order for you to see something and say something. especially when it comes to mental health and some of these individuals who are extremely vulnerable within the carceral system that need that extra motivation to keep going. Does anybody know what H&I means? It means hospitals and institutions. That means volunteers from Alcoholics Anonymous are going to come in and they're going to share their experience, strength, and hope, kind of like what I'm doing with you guys right now. And they're going to talk to me about addiction. I remember getting out of my cell for selfish reasons because I was driving myself freaking nuts in there to go to this H&I because nobody else would go. And it was for the first time in my life, I swear, because I was open and receptive to change, that I felt love for the first time in my life. As a result, I responded to things that allowed me to start changing my behavioral patterns. The words that I spoke, the words that were coming in, the books that I would read, the things I was exposed to. So when they broke up Cimarron and I went to East Unit, there's a lot of lifers there. So you have to be careful in conversation. Some guys are going home, some guys are not. And I was exposed to peer-to-peer programming. That means, and at the time, guys, back in 2013 or 2014, officers were not accustomed to opening doors for us so that we can use our lived experience to help each other. And I taught relapse prevention from an old Hazelden manual just out of my own motivation to be a part of the solution, because I know that if I don't want to die and I don't want to go back to prison the rest of my life, neither do any of my fellow inmates. Fast forward, teaching classes, going back and forth, experiencing different yards. 2017, I was approached by Joe Hinsberg. At the time, he was a programs coordinator for the Department of Corrections, CO3 Smith, who's now retired. And they came down and asked if I would want to be a part of this program called the Second Chance Center. Now, have you guys heard about the Second Chance Center? Second Chance Center is a pre-release program that the Arizona Department of Corrections Rehabilitation and Reentry has created for those that get out to have more of a softer landing. I'll backtrack just a little bit. In 2015, I started going to Rio Salado. It was one of the only print-based material programs for education that you can afford. So in the process of going to school and doing peer-to-peer programming, I was able to really help my incarcerated community to the best of their ability, recognize, how they got here and what it's going to be like as they navigate getting out. Recovery Support Specialist is a program that individuals can get certified in recovery support and start helping their incarcerated members teach classes about anything from substance use to family ties to, the 7 habits. Also, preparing individuals at these second chance centers for release. So for 2.5 years, a team along with myself founded the Second Chance Center, which is still alive today. It's with the GEO group, but it's there and it's running, and I go there every week to talk to individuals about what it means to have a successful reentry. I did get my degree while incarcerated. Now, mind you, if we look back, what did I tell you guys? I failed everything in my entire life, including all levels of academia, barely getting by on my GED. I graduated with honors.